All right, now let's flip it over to the Mets here. So the Mets, they put out a statement. We were unable to reach an agreement. We wish Carlos all the best. And so Met fans, you can hear them from top to bottom here in the New York City area. The original deal, I believe, was 12 or 10 years for $315 around there. The big one with the Giants was $350. But then once the medicals became an issue in New York, and then they were like, okay, we're gonna 57.5 in terms of guaranteed money. And Carlos Correa and his camp went out and they found a better deal. He's staying in Minnesota. Now, how does this affect the Mets moving forward? Eduardo Escobar, they're going to pencil him in at third base, but it's always going to be tough, I think, this year when you're a Met fan and you're watching this team this year, thinking, what if Carlos Correa was at third base?
That's a great point, Fran. And I think how well the Mets play can kind of squash that for Mets fans. I think if they win the division and aren't kind of like last year where they were on top of the division, the Braves caught them right at the end, could Correa have been the difference? Well, you're going to argue that he could because he is a better player than Eduardo Escobar. However, Eduardo Escobar is a guy who, I mean, 2019, look at the numbers here. I mean, it's 35 and 118. 2020 shortened season. We're going to throw that away on everyone. 2021, 28 home runs, 90 RBIs. And then you come to New York. His career was a lot of Minnesota, a lot of Arizona. Finishes off with his first year now in New York. Some guys signed 6-year deals, 10-year deals, a la Albert Pujols, where that first year, maybe like a Francisco Lindor, you feel like you got to get your feet wet. It's the same thing for a guy that signs a 2-year deal in a major market. New York's a different beast along with other big markets. And I'm looking for Eduardo Escobar to have more like the 2021 season than what he did in 2022. He's going to feel more comfortable. Now, is there that added pressure where he's going to have to answer a lot of questions in the spring? So hopefully, for me, as a fan of guys that I root for players to do well, I hope he gets off to a good start. Mets play well, and you can kind of put this on the back burner, and then Mr. Cohen has shown that money, he's willing to pay for it. Come trade deadline, if we got to go drop the hammer on someone because we're short an arm, we're short an outfield position, he's going to do it. So the way Escobar plays could really massage this a little bit for Mets fans.
Yeah, we could argue that the rotation, for example, we could argue that it could possibly be better than last year.
I agree.
Right? Now, Escobar did a pretty solid job, holding it down there at third base, and now he's going to be back. This is walk year. He's highly motivated, and if he comes back to his old form, now they have something really that it's more than we can just
all-star in 2021.
Yeah. He's a good player.
He is a really good player. So do not forget that. Also, looking down the pipe, I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, they have also talent in the minor leagues. Ronnie Mauricio, for example, shortstop for the Dominican Republic, MVP of Lidom this year. He really balled out this winter, but if you go back to his Double-A campaign, 28 home runs. He's only 21 years old, guys. I'm thinking to myself, wait a second. Maybe and he's got some flair, too.
He got a little Yordan Alvarez from the left side at the plate. I mean, in terms of that stance and the way he attacks the ball.
There's no way he weighs 166. This is when he signed when he was 16. Because he looks like a man.
Oh my God.
But that's a great point, Carlos, because look at some of the guys we saw come up, even looking at the Correa camp. Alex Bregman was a shortstop.
Yeah. Yep.
So you kind of draft or develop all the best players you can, and if they get there, we'll find a spot for you. Now imagine this kid who is a natural shortstop. If his stick plays, and we might give him a chance, maybe after next year, you might move him over to third and now have kind of a tremendously talented defensive third baseman who you have under control. All those things you look for. Oh, he's under control. We can move him around in the lineup. He's versatile. Like, those things play as well, So Mets fans, you're fine. Yes. By the way, they won 101 games last year. There's no slouch.
After this conversation, Mets fans are feeling a little bit.
Well, look, you're always worried about the future, and you're always worried about making sure you can be a contender. And I think the Dodgers have done a great job with that over the last decade. They just kind of replenish and be in the mix. But for the Mets, you got Verlander and Scherzer for at least 2 years. These next 2 years are pivotal, and I think that's where we're going to find out, what Carlos Correa could have added to that team over the next 2 years. That's going to be the question I think Mets fans are going to be talking about and re-asking themselves over and over and over.
They were already feeling good, Fran, and you brought them back.
We're trying to pump them up, Fran.
Fran brought them back down.
I'm in the reality business. All right, we're going to take our first break at the MLB tonight. A lot of big bank dished out to Devers in Beantown. Now Rafael running point for the Red Sox. Rafi reintroduces himself to Red Sox Nation to Boston next.
Music. Let the games begin.
I'm the product here, and if they want my product, they just gotta come get it.
Carlos Correa has got a huge chip on his shoulder. What do you think is the best fit for him? Carlos Correa signed 13 years, $350 with the San Francisco Giants.
He has set the market even bigger than we thought it could go.
Carlos Correa reverse course. No, I'm not going to San Francisco. I'm going to the New York Mets. Carlos Correa's free agent contract with the Mets still in limbo thanks to medical concerns.
The Correa fiasco becoming an epic fail. I cannot believe it has taken this long.
I do think the Mets have had enough here.
At least one other team re-engaging with Carlos Correa.
Is it a likely possibility that he would actually go back?
The Twins know his medicals better than anybody else.
Carlos Correa back to Minnesota.
This is how we think the Correa story ends.
Man, that happened fast, huh?
Yeah, exhausted right now.
Hey, welcome inside Studio 3 for MLB Tonight alongside former Big Bopper Carlos Pena and World Series MVP Mike Lowell. I am Fred Charles.
Nice compliment.
Yeah, come on, man. I'm with royalty, man. You know, I got to big you guys up. But speaking of big guys up, hey, credit to the Twins, credit to Carlos Correa and his camp. They got it done, and Minnesota fans are going to get to reap the benefits of Carlos Correa staying with the Twins.
Well, we saw how happy Byron Buxton was with his tweet yesterday, and I think that is going to carry over to the Twins fan base, their front office, you know, the on-field staff. Everyone's got to be happy. I mean, this is an elite player at an elite position. And I think the Twins had to get a little creative, and I do think the advantage of having him this past year was a big negotiating tool that worked in the favor of this coming together. I thought you get to know the guy, even if it's for a year, you see how he goes about his business, and you feel confident about offering these dollars, which are astronomical in today's game.
They're familiar with his health history. And look, for the Twins, you know, getting Carlos Correa back, they were definitely familiar with what he could do in between the lines. And after having a 19 and the season in 2020 that was successful, winning their division, and then, you know, not so much this past season, they had to do something, and bringing him back is a huge win for Minnesota. They had to get creative, so we have to give credit to that front office really getting it done and bringing this big ball player, not only between the lines, but this guy's a leader as well, guys.
Yeah, third time it's a charm. So Giants to say no, Mets say no, but the Twins say yes. It is official. Physical past. Carlos Correa re-signs with the Minnesota Twins to the tune of 6 years, $200 million large, with a vesting option for a series of 4 one-year deals based on plate appearances each season. That could bring the total package to $270 million. So look now at the largest contracts in Twins franchise history. Correa, he's on there twice. Great point made by Mike Lowell. They had him for a year at $35 1/3 million, and so they got to know the player and really loved what they saw. Also with Joe Meyer, Byron Buxton, and Josh Donaldson on there as well. But Carlos Correa stands